Chapter 13. Viking Food, Drink and Feasting Culture. After another brutal winter and a summer of raiding, the harvest has come in strong this year. The settlement has cause to celebrate, and the Jarl announces a feast. Not a small gathering, but a proper feast that will last for 3 days, with guests invited from neighbouring settlements. This is your chance to fully experience Viking food culture, beyond the everyday survival eating you've grown accustomed to. Preparations begin a week in advance. This isn't just cooking a meal. It's a massive undertaking that involves the entire community. Animals are selected for slaughter. This year's feast will feature a cow, several pigs, dozens of chickens, and as many sheep as can be spared. Fresh meat is a luxury in Viking society. Most meat is preserved, dried or salted, and eaten sparingly through the winter. A feast is one of the few times people eat fresh meat in quantity. The slaughtering happens over 2 days. You help with some of it, and it's messy, exhausting work. Blood must be collected for blood sausages and puddings. Nothing is wasted. Internal organs are cleaned and prepared. Intestines become sausage casings. The stomach becomes a cooking vessel. Even hooves and bones are saved for making stock and gelatin. The women and thralls work constantly, preparing ingredients. Bread is baked in massive quantities in outdoor ovens built specifically for this purpose. The bread is dense, heavy stuff made from barley and rye, sometimes mixed with ground peas or beans to stretch the flour. Beer is brewed, massive amounts of it. The brewing process started weeks ago, malting the barley, mashing it, fermenting it in large wooden vats. The result is a cloudy, somewhat sour beer that's far stronger than modern beer. It's nutritious, providing calories and vitamins, and safe to drink unlike much of the available water. Mead is also being prepared, though this takes much longer and has been in production for months. Honey is expensive, so mead is reserved for special occasions and important guests. The mead for this feast is a batch that's been fermenting since last spring, now strong and potent. The day before the feast, the cooking begins in earnest. Large outdoor fire pits are prepared. Whole animals are spitted and set to roast, requiring constant attention to rotate them and tend the fires. Other meats are boiled in massive cauldrons, creating rich broths that will become stews and soups. Fish are prepared, both fresh caught and from preserved stores. Herring, cod, salmon when available, all cleaned, filleted, and either roasted or boiled. Smoked fish, a staple that normally sustains the settlement through winter, is brought out in quantity for the feast. Vegetables are surprisingly varied for this time of year. Root vegetables, turnips, onions, carrots stored from the last harvest, cabbage preserved through fermentation, an early form of sauerkraut that tastes terrible but keeps well, peas and beans dried and now soaked and cooked, various greens foraged from the wild, butter and cheese are brought from storage, precious fats that add flavor and calories. Eggs are boiled by the dozen, a rare treat since most eggs are carefully saved for breeding chickens. There are also foods you wouldn't expect. Seabirds and their eggs, collected from clifftop nests at great risk. Sea mammal meat, seal or even whale if a recent hunt was successful. Wild game, deer or boar if the hunters have been fortunate. And there are stranger items. Fermented shark, an Icelandic specialty that's made its way to this settlement, buried in sand for months until it ferments and develops an ammonia smell that's overwhelming. You try a piece and immediately regret it. It tastes like what you imagine poison would taste like, but Vikings consider it a delicacy, and eating it proves you're tough. Blood puddings made from the blood collected during slaughter, mixed with fat and grain, stuffed into intestines and boiled. They're actually not bad, rich and savoury, though the thought of what you're eating is unsettling. As guests begin arriving from neighbouring settlements, the feast officially begins. The longhouse has been prepared, cleared of everyday clutter, decorated with whatever ornaments and tapestries the settlement possesses. Fresh rushes have been laid on the floor. The fire pit blazes, providing light and warmth. Long tables are set up, just planks laid across supports, and benches are arranged for seating. The seating is hierarchical. The Jarl and his family at the head table, honoured guests near them, then other free men and women in descending order of status. Thralls don't sit, they serve. The food begins arriving, carried by thralls and lower status women. Wooden platters piled with meat, both roasted and boiled, bowls of stews and soups, baskets of bread, dishes of butter and cheese, plates of fish. There are no individual plates. Food is shared from common platters. You take what you want with your hands or with your personal knife, which everyone carries. You eat directly or place food on a thick slice of bread that serves as an edible plate, trencher, and you eat. By modern standards, the feast is excessive. People are gorging themselves, eating until they're uncomfortably full, because who knows when the next opportunity will come. You eat meat until your stomach aches, bread until you can't fit another bite, and then somehow you find room for more because the food keeps coming. Between courses, there's entertainment. A skald performs, reciting poetry and tales of heroic deeds. His delivery is dramatic, voice rising and falling, using the complex kennings and meters that Vikings value. The stories are of battles, of raids, of heroes who died gloriously. The audience listens raptly, sometimes shouting approval at particularly exciting moments. Then the drinking truly begins. Beer is served in large horns, actual cattle horns that have been cleaned, treated, and fitted with metal bases so they can stand upright. But the traditional way to use them is to drain them in one long pull, and there's social pressure to do so. To sip slowly marks you as weak. You take a horn of beer, raise it in toast to the jarl, and drink. It's thick, somewhat bitter, and surprisingly filling. You finish it, and are immediately handed another, and another. The beer flows constantly. Mead is served to honoured guests in precious metal cups or the finest drinking horns. It's sweet, potent, and goes down far too easily. After a few cups, the room starts to spin pleasantly. Between drinks, food continues to arrive. Dessert is modest by modern standards, primarily dried fruits that have been rehydrated and sweetened with precious honey. There are also nuts imported at great cost from further south, and hard cheeses that serve as a sweet course. The drinking games begin. Men challenge each other to drinking contests, seeing who can consume the most without passing out or vomiting. It's considered manly to hold your liquor, shameful to be defeated by drink. Women drink too, though generally less excessively. They sit in groups, talking, gossiping, occasionally joining in toasts. Some are drinking as heavily as the men, matching them horn for horn. As the night wears on and people get increasingly drunk, the atmosphere shifts. The initial formality dissolves. People become louder, more boisterous. Laughter erupts frequently. Songs are sung, bawdy and crude, everyone joining in the choruses. Fights break out. Drunk men getting into arguments over real or imagined slights. Wrestling matches erupt in corners of the longhouse. People grappling and throwing each other while friends cheer them on. The jarl intervenes when things threaten to get too serious, weapons drawn, but otherwise lets the chaos continue. Sexual tension rises. The loosened inhibitions, the crowded quarters, the general atmosphere of indulgence, all contribute. You see couples disappearing into dark corners, married people who aren't married to each other, young people exploring. The rules are relaxed during feasts, though there will be consequences and gossip tomorrow. Eventually people start passing out. Some fall asleep where they sit. Others stumble outside to vomit, then return to drink more. The floor becomes an obstacle course of unconscious bodies. You make it through the night somehow, alternating between drinking, eating, and trying to stay conscious. By dawn, you're exhausted, overfull, and drunk in a way that you know will result in a legendary hangover. But the feast isn't over. It's supposed to last 3 days. Day 2 begins with people slowly recovering from day 1. The hair of the dog principle is applied, people drinking more alcohol to ease their hangovers, which just extends the cycle of intoxication. More food is prepared, though the quantity is less than the first night. The novelty has worn off, and people are less frantically hungry. But the drinking continues unabated. Day 2's entertainment includes physical competitions, wrestling matches, but formal ones this time, with rules and spectators betting on outcomes. Stone lifting contests, seeing who can hoist the heaviest boulder, archery competitions, spear throwing. These competitions serve social purposes beyond entertainment. They establish hierarchies among men, demonstrating strength, skill, and courage. Winners gain status. Losers are mocked but encouraged to improve. There's also horse fighting, a particularly disturbing spectacle. 2 stallions are brought into an enclosure and deliberately provoked to fight each other. Their owners urge them on, sometimes beating them to increase their aggression. The horses bite and kick each other, while the crowd cheers and bets on the outcome. One horse is severely injured, suffering a broken leg. It's killed immediately, and its meat will be added to the feast. This is presented as entertainment, but you find it cruel and pointless. The Vikings see it as natural, animals fighting for dominance while humans watch. By the end of day 2, several people have left, unable or unwilling to continue the excess. Those who remain are the hardest drinkers, the most social, the people with the greatest stamina for this kind of prolonged celebration. Day 3 is slower, more subdued. People are exhausted. The initial excitement has faded. The remaining food is consumed, but without the frenzy of the first night. The drinking continues, but at a more moderate pace. Farewells begin. Guests from other settlements start their journeys home, laden with gifts from the Jarl, food and drink to take with them, tokens of hospitality and alliance. By evening of the third day, the feast is officially over. The longhouse is a disaster. Food scraps everywhere, spilled drink soaking into the floor, the smell of smoke, sweat and alcohol permeating everything. The cleanup takes 2 full days. Thralls and lower status women work constantly, cleaning, organizing, throwing out waste, restoring order. The Jarl and other high-status people don't help. They're recovering from 3 days of excess. You help with cleanup because you're low enough in the social hierarchy that it's expected. It's exhausting, dirty work, made worse by your pounding headache and queasy stomach. But as you work, you reflect on what you've experienced. The feast wasn't just about food and drink. It was a social event, a political statement, a demonstration of wealth and hospitality, an opportunity to forge alliances and settle disputes informally, and a pressure release valve for a community that lives with constant stress and danger. Vikings don't feast often. Most of the time, life is about scarcity, rationing, making supplies stretch. But when they do feast, they go all out, consuming in 3 days what might normally last weeks, because who knows if they'll survive to the next feast. This mentality of feast or famine, of enjoying excess when it's available because scarcity is always just around the corner, permeates Viking culture. It explains their raiding, their risk-taking, their seemingly reckless behavior. When you live on the edge of survival, when winter could kill you, when disease could strike any time, when violence is always a possibility, you take your pleasures intensely when they're available. The feast is over. The settlement returns to normal life, and normal life means rationing food, drinking watered-down beer, working constantly just to survive. But for 3 days, you experience the other side of Viking life. The celebration, the excess, the joy that's possible when everything goes right, and the harvest is good, and no one is dying. It's a glimpse of what Vikings are actually celebrating when they feast. Survival itself. Not just surviving, but thriving enough to waste resources on celebration. It's a collective middle finger to the harsh world they inhabit. We made it through another year. We have food, we have drink, we're still here. And for 3 days, we're going to act like we're not always one bad winter away from starvation. That's what Viking feasting is really about. Defiance.